Hello, I'm Joshua Kennedy, and you're watching Annal-yze. I've asked our guest today to go through the annals of their music history and pick one of their favorite songs and discuss what makes it special to them. So they're going to share that with us today, and our guest today is Adam Young. Hey, Adam.
How's it going?
It's good, man. It's really nice to see you. Your sweet face and your beautifully now bald head.
Yeah, it's all the way bald, and if depending on the angle of the camera, you might see a very unrealistic mustache. It's not that cool.
Yeah, the camera adds 10 pounds to the mustache, is what they say.
Yeah,
When
definitely.
did when did you shave this off? Because I haven't seen you. We were talking about this right before the filming, but I haven't seen you in it's like a decade. It's like 8 years, I think.
Yeah, it's been far too long for sure.
Yeah, man.
Honestly, I feel like I just committed to bald probably within the last like year or two.
Yeah, it looks
It was
great
good,
on you.
and I just thought, embrace it, man.
You
Embrace
look
it.
you look very sleek. You look handsome. You look very aerodynamic. You look very you look like you always were the kind of person who would look like very in place next to a grill, but you've like taken it to the next step.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. All I need is I need like a good apron.
Yeah, with some really dadly thing on it,
There's
like some
a
dad
meme
joke.
that's like floating around. Yeah, there's a meme that's floated around to where guys in their 30s get insanely into World War II history or meats. And I was like, I kind of feel like I've been in categories, but
Do you remember
uh,
Phil Wood?
yeah.
Yeah, so he moved just down the road. He lives in Austin now.
Oh,
And
awesome.
yeah, one of the I when he moved in, I checked out his house and they were being COVID safe and stuff. So, but they got vaccinated and I went over recently and he has this fucking killer smoker. And he smoked 3 racks of ribs, man, and I just finished the leftovers cuz he made so much and it was so good. So, I'm glad he took that route. But I grew up with a dad who was really into World War II history, so maybe you could help me out with there, keep me up to date on the 70-year-old event.
Yeah, definitely. Uh,
So we were catching up a little bit before, and we were talking about our musical history together. Where
yeah.
yeah, so Adam and I have been in a couple permutations of the same band, I guess you might call it, and then we also fucked around with some other people before. So we didn't talk about this directly before, but Adam, would you regale us with that project that you and Drew and I and some other people kind of like weaved in and out of?
Yeah, so I actually remember I remember watching. I just watched Drew's episode recently, and it started as the concept of brilliance. Was
Oh yeah.
can't remember, and I wish I would have pulled that out. I have the original
TCOB.
Drew made of like a logo or something, and then we changed it to the Rosemary Massacre. And in truth, I don't even remember. You may not have been a part of it as the concept of brilliance
I
because I
was
think that
not.
Josh Stein and Mike Babb with Drew and I, and then after that, it was the Rosemary Massacre, which would have been me, you, Jesse Hewitt, and Drew. And then I think it went directly from there into actor and actress, which worked a lot better as a band name overall. So I feel like we also briefly played together in something that TJ was doing. I don't remember which one it was,
Mm.
but yeah. So
Yeah, and then we also jammed with Neil. You reminded
yeah,
me of that. It was me, you, Neil, Eric. What was it? Was I on drums? Who do we have a drummer? Or were we just jamming
Neil,
on guitars? Oh, Neil was
yeah,
drumming.
that for sure. And
Right.
then um, yeah, it was just Eric and I on guitars, and then you played bass. So
Yeah.
it was right around the time Neil was in Goliathon. Eric and I weren't doing anything, and I don't know if you had anything else going on musically. But yeah, it was fun. I think it was like 2 or 3 sessions or something like that, and we threw together a couple things. Like I actually still have the cell phone recordings on my computer, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, we should make like a MySpace page for that because that's a real throwback and just like
I'm
don't
actually
tell
really
anybody about it.
because somebody removed the dances with man, what is this dances with Danger Wolf or something like that. I can't remember what it's called, and I probably screwed that up, so I'm looking forward to him making fun of me for that. But he had that side rap project or something that he did where he did I'm on a bike instead I'm on a boat, and that still to me is one of the funniest things I've ever heard. Drew was
That
like the king of projects because he had that, and he did the song that
his Amelie remix.
Like another metal song. I really wish I could remember what it was called, but like I can even think of the lyrics in my head, but like I can't.
Oh yeah, when that song that he did with Disky, right? It was like him and Disky, like, and he said my own. I believe part of the lyrics is my own.
Where he's like, if her hair smells like smoke, that girl's no good.
Oh my God, he had so many goofy side projects. I forgot about all those.
I remember when we were seniors in high school, I gave the closing speech at our graduation, and I really wanted to include lines from that song in my speech, and somebody caught wind of it and wanted to not. But you guys suck. Nobody has fun.
I remember, so yeah, the one that stands out to me is Drew's Amelie remix, the Lil Wayne song that he remixed. Because it's so fucking good, man. That shit holds up so well. I've liked rap for a long time, but I didn't like Lil Wayne when it was popular. There's a little bit of it I can appreciate now, but his Amelie remix, I was in college and Lil Wayne was really popular, and people would be playing Lil Wayne, and I'd be like, hold on, let me grab that fucking aux real quick and blast Drew's version. So like there was a non-zero number of IU graduates who ended up hearing Drew's version of it because I liked it so much.
Perfect. And it was probably awesome based on the other ones that he did. So
it was very good. I liked it a lot. He's a talented guy.
Musically.
Yeah, and then so I think you and I kind of have had a similar thing where we were very active in that during high school, but then after that we didn't really have much going on. You know, I did Solar Being with Neil and Mike, but that was basically it, man. I spent a lot of time off the game. Are you still playing? Do you play regularly anymore?
Yeah, so I still play, not formally like as a part of a band or anything. I still write songs all the time just for fun. I mean, I probably have a good sized collection of things that just sit unused, you know, in my head and on my, you know, and for cell phone recordings on my computer and stuff. But I finally got a Les Paul. That was like a lifelong dream of mine. And ended up winning this competition at work that paid for most of it, so I was kind of excited. But yeah, and then I play a Simon & Patrick acoustic guitar, which those are awesome. For the record, it wasn't what I was planning on getting originally. I was going to get a Taylor or a Martin, but I couldn't decide between the two. And then all of a sudden, baby swoops in, and she was beautiful. It was the first really nice acoustic I've had in a lot of years, because of the fact that, I don't know, I just never focused on it. But something hit me one day, and I thought, you know, like, if you can play on an acoustic, I mean, I feel like people always say if you can play on an acoustic, you can play it, you know, twice as good on an electric guitar. So I feel like I almost only play my acoustic now. I feel like.
Yeah, I was always more into acoustic growing up. You know, I was a finger picker. Like I was more into that kind of style, and I could never shred. I still can't shred, but so we were coming at guitars from a different perspective. But yeah, I got myself a Taylor. Actually, I'm really happy about it. Yeah, and I'm still like. To the point, I have a Taylor acoustic and a Squier Stratocaster electric. Like that's where my comfort level is. But dude, I have an orange combo now that sits in my it fucking rips. So I'm getting a little more. I've been writing a lot of songs too. I can say that, and that's kind of the reason why I took this time off of work was so that I could sit down with that stuff that I haven't given the attention that it deserves and work on that solo album that I talk about on every episode. It is coming probably this year. That's about as much as I could say right now, but but before we move on about that, there's something I've wanted to tell you, was that you are probably the most amenable and like teamwork oriented songwriter that I've ever worked with. It was so awesome being in a band with you because it felt like we were all able to work together a lot more seamlessly than is in a lot of bands. There's the ego thing, and especially because we were teenagers, you know what I mean? Like a lot of us were dickheads, myself included. You were not, actually, but that's probably why it was so easy to work with you, and like why the songs I always felt, actually, honestly, the actor and actress stuff is still the music that I'm most proud of, that I've worked on. Because it felt like we were actually able to synthesize all of what made us individuals into a full product. Whereas a lot of the other projects were more like even though the music may have been cool, it didn't feel as much of a mix. It felt more like the guitarist's guitar lines and the bassist's bass lines, where I feel like we had this like creative puddle that we all melted in together. And as our lead guitarist and songwriter, like I have always credited you for like allowing that collaborative space to happen and like just making it work. So props. And yeah, I miss working with you.
Yeah, man, I miss the songwriting process. You know, it's funny that you say that too, because I feel like I will think back on those A&A songs all the time, and I think I can only imagine like what it would have been like if we really pushed ourselves. You know, like bands and musicians that are out there that really push themselves. You know, they really try to drive home how creative they can really be and maximize all of that within themselves individually and as a team, right? And we were like the version. I felt like we were a talented and creative enough minded, you know, group of people to be successful or to have like some decent or good albums out there, like but it was like we could never get all of us to give a shit at the same time. It was like so either, you know, like I remember times when Drew's like homework was an issue and his mom was all ticked off about that, or you were eating chicken sandwiches, or so I have no idea what it is, but it seems like we could never really hone that in. But then when I listen back to that Zoology EP, there was only 3 songs on that, and all 3 of them, I feel like there's something in all 3 of these that makes me think we had a lot of potential just to even like I'm not even saying like to be like the world's most famous band or something crazy like that, but I listen to those songs and I think like how much of a difference is there in disparity in between us and like a La Dispute or like like Ep6. I loved Ep6 and it traveled. Like they traveled and they got to experience things. We just never pushed ourselves, I don't think, in that way. I don't think any of us cared. And in hindsight, I really think that's why Mike left.
Oh, you know, I thought the same exact fucking thing. I was like, because he was like a couple years older than us. Do you know what I mean? And like we were kind of like, especially, I mean, Drew and I is all I'm talking about. We were like bitchy, whiny, like hard to work with, like assholes, like a lot of the time. And like I definitely regret that, but at the same time, I'm not holding a grudge against my former self or the former Drew, because like we were literally 17-year-olds. Yeah, like, for sure. Like it makes perfect sense. But I think you're exactly right. I think that's why Mike was like, no, I don't think I'm going to do this anymore. And I, you know, more power to him. I totally get it now. Looking back,
I get it too. Remember Paris and the Drama State, man? They did the damn thing.
Yeah, like, they had it together.
I like respected them so much for that, all of those guys, because they put themselves out there, you know. And actually, what's so funny about this is I think out of everybody that I was around growing up, the person that, and he probably has no idea that I would make this statement, but the person that I think probably has influenced my musical taste the most over the years is Ryan Diskey.
Yeah,
like that dude has secret, because I've worked with him a couple of times to where, and I would still love to work with him. And it's so difficult to make schedules match and things like that. But
adulthood is hard.
You know, he's like every time I've been around and put it this way, he's talking about somebody that he's listening to, and then all of a sudden I'm thinking, God, this is like one of my favorite bands now, or one of my favorite artists. Honestly, the Noah Gunderson piece, like that we'll talk about in a few minutes, like that's who I learned that from.
Oh, no shit, you got that from Diskey?
Yeah,
right on.
Noah Gunderson for sure, and he just, and I think there's an emotional aspect to music that he connects on and understands, and I think that's really what I've started to connect with, and I think it's funny to watch how that molded, because most people when we were growing up, they probably would have thought my musical taste would exactly mirror Eric Hewitt.
He's been around. Yeah, he was a guy who was definitely around.
So, and I love Eric. I really do.
Oh yeah, he's got great taste.
Guitar player to him, I think. I think we have a lot of styles that are similarities there, but and we do have some musical taste that is similar too. I'm all over the place. There's a lot that I listen to these days, but
yeah, it is really cool that we got to connect with those dudes who are like, I think they're both like 5 or 6 years older than us, but they were like in the scene, like they were playing music. They were the people who came before us, and like it's funny the staggering, like you can see the direct like incestuous band trend where it's like the oldest member of a band moves to college, so then the youngest member has to start a new band who gets another youngest member, and it's just like this chain. Like it was like Disky to TJ to me, right? Like, and you, like that's kind of how it worked. Or like you just have to you got to shuffle new people into this mix, like as people grow up and as younger people become more talented and more capable. Like, yeah, that's how it works. And both of those guys too, yeah, have been huge influences for me. And people who I'm also interested in getting on the show sometime. So if either of you guys watch, yeah, you're on the list. I'm gonna be bugging you over Instagram or something here soon. I'll have to send a telegram to Eric, right? I don't think he uses like modern technology to communicate.
And I don't know. I connect with him every now and then. Yeah, he's still Eric, man. He's the same guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna find him. I'll get a carrier pigeon. I'll tell him to find him. Yeah. All right, that's awesome. I'm glad we got to like give some background to what we used to do and where we're from. So let's hop into the song, man. What'd you pick today?
So I picked Ledges from Noah Gunderson. This is actually the first song I ever heard from Noah Gunderson, which again was a recommendation to me from Ryan Diskey when he was writing some songs. And yeah, it's a beautiful song, I think. And I think it's one of the first songs that I've ever cared about lyrically. Because, when I was watching the episode with Ramsey, Ramsey made a really, really great point that I had never really thought of because I don't think I ever understood this about myself. And it kind of opened that up. So I thank him for that for sure. To where as musicians, when you're not, like, I feel like I have to likely connect with music differently than Drew does, right? Because musically we might be looking for something different that makes us tick. I know that there's a specific feeling sometimes that I get when I hear a guitar line or when I hear a bass line or a drum line or something, like that's what makes me move. That's what gets me going. So this song Ledges, I thought it's such lyrically, it's one of those things that just made me think. It made me think a lot because a lot of the song, like for example, the chorus says, here I stand on the edge of the ledges I've made, looking for a steady hand. So with that, he honestly, he might be talking about a breakup or a girl or something, which I can relate to as well. But at the same time, like, I feel like that is life. Like, that's been my whole life. I feel like I constantly am standing on these self-inflicted ledges, right? Like that. And I'm looking for something or someone to steady me. And in a lot of ways, I think music has been a coping mechanism for me too with that. But it's like everything in our world tells us that we have to be a certain type of person or like certain things, and those things change all the time too, which makes it even more difficult to figure out what to do in life, right? And I've grown so much to believe in mental health, not that I didn't before, but to understand it a little bit. Like, I think everyone should go to therapy, happy or sad. You should get a third party opinion on whether or not you are a mentally healthy person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because it's really hard when you're in it to take a step back. Like, that's what they're for. That's a big part of it, is so that they can relate from like stable ground. Yeah. And I support that notion too. I think therapy is a good tool for everybody.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I just think that's the connection that I made with the song. I don't know if that's what Noah was talking about when he wrote it, but I know that for me, I've thought a lot about those ledges and like where they come from, and not to mention the song itself is awesome too, and it's gorgeous. So.
Yeah, on this topic, I wanted to say about the lyrics. I took a look and read through them, and even before I read through them, that chorus did catch me emotionally, especially because that's when the vocal harmony kicks in too. And I was like, oh shit, that's a tight vocal harmony, that's powerful. And then the lyrics come in, and it is powerful. And that statement, I think it's really important that he said that it's a ledge that he made, because that's something I can definitely relate to. Especially, we were talking earlier about like the creative process and trying to make your own music. Hell, maybe the song's about that, but where you project this idea that there's a ledge there, and you also feel like you need a hand, but there's no ledge and there's no hand. It's just like, it's just you dealing with your shit, and everybody does it, you know, and I think it's part of the process. But like, from that mental health perspective, that's what came to my mind too, was like how we make up the ledge and we make up that we need someone else, you know. That's all part of the fiction, and that's the vibe that I got from this song, was also like, you know, him struggling with, you know, whatever the like real life challenge might be, but it's more about his internal struggle.
Well, I think one of the most important lines in the song too is the last line of the chorus, where he says, "I'm trying to be a better man," and then there's a brief pause, right? And then he says, "For you." Mm-hmm. So because that's kind of where it really, really hit home for me. Like, I think no matter what I'm doing, I've spent the better part of my 20s trying to be a better man for my son, or trying to be a better man for my family, or for my friends, or for whatever, and always trying to be there for other people. And in a way, I think that might be why I create these ledges for myself. You know, and again, it was one of the first songs that I think lyrically I've ever really connected with. Even as, you know, in just in its simple form, because otherwise music for me has always been, you know, how do I, you know, what part of the song is going to pull me in? You know, I almost started to mention this earlier in our convo before we started. But like, I think I finally figured out what I had to just, somebody asked me recently, they were like, "Hey, can you tell me like what's your musical taste? Like, how do you describe it?" And I think I figured out that the biggest thing, or the two biggest things that pull me into somebody musically, are whether or not I feel like you care, honest to God, and like whether or not you're good at it, whether or not like I can, whether or not you're good at it. And I know that sounds silly, but you know, like we talked earlier about like butt rock bands, right? And the reality of it is, some of the most talented people in the world are in those bands, but they've lost that second element for me. I don't feel like they care about what they're doing. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah.
I've spent the last week solid listening to the newest J. Cole album. Mm-hmm. Not an ounce of shame. That sucker is amazing.
He's incredible.
But it's because I feel like he's on his game. Like, he is on his game. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He 100%, and that pulls me in. That brings up that confidence level a little bit. Like, that's why I listen to hip hop music. 90% of the reason that I listen to hip hop music is because I feel like a more confident creature just roaming around. Like, you know what I mean? I love for that. There's a whole level of confidence that comes from that.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. And when I started to try to pick a song for this, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how difficult of a task this would be, because do I want to go with something that like really fits me, you know, musically, or do I want to go with something? And then this one just kind of popped out of nowhere. It actually came up when I was playing a playlist of mine, and I thought, oh, that's the one.
That's the one. Yeah, I can definitely relate. I listen to a lot of hip hop too, and I think that has always been part of the ethos of hip hop, which is speaking your truth. And a lot of times speaking truth to power. But even when it's just a personal thing, and that is one of the reasons why I love J. Cole as well. Like the heartfelt nature of his lyrics is incredible. That kind of authenticity is amazing. And that's definitely, I can't remember the song it comes from, but I always remember the lyric. People tend to listen when they see your soul. And I think that's something that I've been trying to carry with me in my creative process, which is just like, man, just be you. Like, some people aren't going to like it. That's okay. Some people are going to like it. That's okay too. Like, it's like the authenticity is what people respond to, and you are a living example of that, when people care, like, and I want to be the kind of person that makes shit that is something I care about, and the other part, talent, being good at it, that's a whole other question, right? Like, when you have to take the emotional aspect and apply skill to it, and how to do that correctly is a whole other question. One that I'm particularly grappling with as a solo artist too. Like, I don't have someone else there to be like, to bridge some of those skill gaps. So that's been challenging, but enough about me. I
think one of the beautiful things about music is like that you can find in music. And this is another one of those things, I guess, that really pulls me in, is when there's raw emotion. Mm-hmm. I think that will trump talent. It'll trump anything, because like that's like next level me seeing that you care in your
Yeah.
music, right? You know, there's I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. There's a band called the Glorious Sons. Again, a Ryan Diskey recommendation. I do think they're awesome, but they have a song called Pink Motel where basically the lead singer just loses his shit in the bridge of this song.
Yeah.
Like he's just yelling and screaming about the fact that you know, like whoever he was with, all she cared about was the cars, and she cared about the money, and she cared about the lifestyle, and he is just hammering this whole thing home. And it's not even like it's the most perfectly pitched vocal performance ever, you know what I mean? It would be heavily criticized on a television show, I'm sure. But you know, it's beautiful because it feels like you're in the room with him. It's like almost like you're a part of the argument that he had that brought him to that place. I love a raspiness in a voice, because often I feel like when that voice starts to crack, that's when it's authentic.
Yeah.
You know, you can be as polished as you want to, but I don't think I've ever been much of a fan of polished music. It's pretty rare, I feel like. But
what the hell?
There's a gift from Zoom. Is that what that says?
That's going to be in the capture, which is kind of funny. Great. Go away. Go away. Oh, my God. Oh, that's why I'm clicking. Okay. More technical problems.
There we go.
We're back. We're back. So it's really good to hear you say that. That's the kind of shit that I need to hear more of. You know, working by yourself, you get too in your head and you start to worry about how you sound. But and that's another reason why I like this show, is because I want to learn more about how people connect to music. Because, you know, I only know my perspective and what I like. And then like getting to have this show with people who, first of all, I love everybody on the show that I've been on. I have a real personal connection with, but I also have a musical connection with all these people. Everyone that's been on here, and obviously Adam, are people that I've shared music with or played music with, and figuring that out and sharing those stories and sharing how we connect to it is so important to me. It's one of my favorite parts of being alive. So thanks again for coming on and giving me the opportunity to do that. One other thing I wanted to say about this song too was that outro riff. That's heavy. That's pretty heavy. I imagine like when I first heard it, I imagined going to their concert and them just like jamming that riff for like 15 minutes, like, and just really squeezing the life out of it, because it's really good. It's catchy, and I did like it. I didn't do a deep dive into figuring. I don't tend to care necessarily. I mean, I'm curious, but I don't usually care about what the artist meant to say about a song. I think, you know, your interpretation of it is the most important. Like, how does it connect to you? And you know, me too. I love raw shit. When I think there's a joke that I make to myself, I guess, sometimes, just like knowing that when a band comes out with their second album, my first thought is like, this shit's gonna suck. Like, it's not gonna be raw. Like, whatever that raw shit that made that first album so good, like it tends to go away for a band in their second album, but not always. Some people know how to manage it and like find other ways to be great, or just continue to be raw. But yeah, so I listened to the song. I like the song. It's definitely not something that I listen to. You know, that I don't know. What genre would you classify this as?
I don't know.
It's kind of like, I would call it like folk pop, maybe.
Yeah, like it's like a poppy indie-ish kind of
indie-ish,
thing.
yeah.
I really don't know. You know,
it's got a country twang to it. Like, and folk might not even be the right word, because it's not like a folky twang. It's like country. Like, it's got a country twang to it.
Yeah, which is really weird for me too, because it's not a heavy genre for me at all. I've gotten more into it over the last few years, just because I think there are some incredibly talented songwriters that live within that Americana country, and that may be how I describe it. I think that's a genre. I don't know. There's a genre for everything, I feel like, but I feel like it might be the winner for Noah Gunderson, but there's so many talented songwriters within that world, and it's funny because they're probably like some of the least famous people in country music, right? But like, I'm not a big country music fan at all, but yeah, there's something about it. I mean, it's like it's an untapped place, you know,
Yeah.
for me, I should say, because I spent so much time growing up listening to heavier music and rock, like in general. I mean, none of my favorite bands are even remotely close to that, but you know, but I think too, when you think about elements of certain genres that are pulled into some of the music that we like still to this day, one of my favorite albums that I've ever heard is Low Country from Envy on the Coast.
Yeah.
That start to finish is a freaking banger, dude. Like it's so good, but there are a lot of weird elements within that album that they just kind of briefly pull in, and then it goes away and they go back to their style. I think, you know, I could have a much easier conversation about albums, I think, than I could songs, because I'm still an album guy. Like I can listen to when I start one, I want to get to the end, right?
Okay. Well, you're the first person to say that. I've considered doing that. How about next time you come on, we will do an album? Yeah. Okay.
Well, that'd be totally fine. So, because I think that's where I musically connect a little bit more. Like I can remember albums that shifted my musical thinking, that showed me that it was okay to like more than just one little thing that I would get pulled into. And honestly, I owe a lot of that to Thrice. I think Thrice, I was a Thrice fan growing up, and they're never the most polished band in the world. They're never perfect. I actually think there are certain songs that you can hear the mess ups a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Beautiful that they do that, and they just, you know, like they hit that fork in the road where they were on a major label, and it was like, what are we gonna do? Do we want to make our music, or do we want to make what they want us to make for the rest of our lives? And they chose to make their own, and it's worked out just fine. I've seen them probably 10 times live, and
wow,
like that Alchemy Index album, and like Visu really started it, but that Alchemy Index album is really, you know, it's broken into the 4 elements, and it really showed me like there are songs that are completely acoustic. There are songs that are
completely electronic.
Yeah, like I mean, it's the strangest thing, you know. There's a song that sounds like it's recorded in the middle of a jazz bar on nothing but a piano, and the only thing I picture in my head is like some, you know, lit cigarette and a one person that is singing it. But yeah, their albums are what tend to move me, because it's like you get the full story when you listen to an album.
That's me too, man. I've always been a big album listener, and I strongly agree. And I'm glad you said that. I'm gonna maybe just like open this show up a little bit to be like, if you want to pick an album, you can pick an album. And then maybe just expect it to perhaps be a longer episode, because it's a lot more material to work with, which I am 100% down for. And since you mentioned Alchemy Index, I just wanted to throw that out there to anybody watching. You need to listen to the whole Alchemy Index, because you're probably gonna like one of the 4 elements, because most people can connect to one of those 4 genres. But it's one fucking band. One fucking band did this massive project, 6 songs apiece, and they all end with a sonnet, right?
Yeah.
At the last song is always a sonnet, and it's fucking beautiful and brilliant. So highly recommend. Just listen to all 4 of them, and also the Alchemy. I only know that because of you. So thank you, Adam, for that hugely influential album for me. And again, it is one of those things that I think about when I'm thinking about my own music, because I do those things. I do those 4 genres, and like trying to like understand that I can make music that disparate. But figuring out a way to deliver it in a package is still challenging. But it helps me not to put myself in too much of a box. So thank you, Adam, for showing me that, and thank you, Thrice, for being incredible. All right.
Just a bravery that comes with doing a project like that.
Yeah,
like it would
the
be
confidence.
Like, I mean, I can't tell you how many shows that I've been to where you have people just screaming, "Play Deadbolt, play Deadbolt." To a point where they were like, "You hate that song, like we're not gonna play it." And then they started making T-shirts that said "Play Deadbolt." And I'm like, bravo, man. They steered right into it, and I think they probably play it now. I think the last couple of times I've seen them, they play it, but you know, there's a lot of bravery that comes from making an album that is not what your fans expect.
Yeah.
And they made 4 of them that were that way.
Yeah.
Like a year. So pretty wild.
Yeah. Yeah, always keep expanding those horizons, and bands like Thrice, thanks for pushing us to, trust the artist to take us in a new direction. So, I think that's all I got about the Noah Gunderson track, man. Anything else you want to point out about it?
No, I don't think so. Definitely give it a listen. Maybe you'll feel the same thing we do. Maybe you won't.
Yeah, let's try to touch on it.
Yeah.
And okay, cool. We'll just wrap up then. Before I tell you about the song I recommend, do you have anything you want to plug or anything you want to say to anybody watching?
Honestly, just pay attention. There are still a lot of people that are local musicians that are incredible at what they do. And some of the best music in the world is on those smaller channels, right? Like one of the ones that I mentioned before the show was there's a hip hop artist named Sirius Black that is out of Indiana, and he probably has. I've never met him. He has no idea that I even exist. But I guarantee there are not a lot of people that listen to him more than I do on Spotify. It's just kind of wild. So, and I know that he's a part of this new group. I think it's called Bless or something. It's with him and Oreo Jones. So, and that's just a small example. Like, watch or listen to anything that you can find that is local too, because there's some really, really talented people out there trying to do it.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I actually got to see Oreo Jones and Sirius Black back when I lived in Indiana. They opened for Shabazz Palaces, and they kicked the shit out of it. The crowd was super amped by their performance. We all loved it. So yeah, I will. I'm just gonna throw their links to their Spotify or whatever in this so that people can find, and Instagram so that people can find them. So good plug for local musicians and fucking good ones too. Thanks, man. Good. It's good to hear that everybody needs more friends telling everybody to listen to more local music. So thanks for spreading that.
Will do.
All right, so when you told me this song, I didn't know what to expect. You and I have not always agreed on like what music is good or bad. Historically, we have an ongoing argument about if Rush or Kiss is better. So not to get too into that, but I expected. I was like, Adam could send me something I don't really like, and I'm like, how do I cope with that? Like, how do I make a show and like try to like relate to a song even if I don't necessarily like it? And this song was a little challenging. This isn't the kind of thing that I like. I won't listen to it again, honestly. But that doesn't mean I didn't find the value in it, and I did emotionally connect to the message as well. And that's why I'm doing this show, is to better understand the nuances of what I like and what other people like, so that I can get, I don't know, just a better picture, a more holistic understanding of music and why it's so great, because it is so great. It's one of the best things in the fucking world. And there's a band that I heard a few years, I guess the album that contains the song I'm going to recommend was 2017, and it was new when I heard it. So it's been a few years. And immediately when I heard it, I was like on the treadmill at the gym, and I immediately texted Drew. I was like, "Hey man, you got to listen to this, because there's something special here." So the song is Worms by the band Pile. It's the first track off their album A Hair Shirt of Purpose. What's the reason why I'm recommending this song is because I know what you and I used to listen to together, some hardcore, some heavier shit, grunge. And then I listened to this song and I was like, this is twangy. Like, so I was surprised. I was like, this is twangy. This has got some twang in it. Well, Pile, this band, and the song Worms, it is somewhere on this massive gap that separates Noah Gunderson from Every Time I Die. But that is the spectrum on which Pile exists. It is like, there is some straight up twang in this. It's bizarre, but it is also... If you listen to the first song, and I know you're an album guy, you should probably just keep letting it play, because the Worms does a great job at like kind of saying, okay, this is what we're here to do on this album. It's representative, but it goes further in both directions of like more twang, more like low key, kind of soft, and crazier and more hardcore. So definitely listen to that whole album, A Hair Shirt of Purpose by Pile. I would tell every single person watching this that they should definitely listen to that album by Pile. So yeah, I was really surprised by this. I listened to it today on my bike to like remember why I loved it. But it's special, man. I think you're really gonna like it. And I've only recently kind of come to more appreciate like Nirvana and the Foo Fighters and some of that grunge that you've always really liked. And I think that there's a lot of that DNA in here too. So all that combined is why I'm recommending the song Worms by Pile. Check it out. And then, Adam, when you do that, let me know what you think, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. I'll listen to it as soon as we're off the interview here.
Hell yeah, man. Awesome. Well, man, it was great to have you. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, anytime. I can talk music every day. So
I know, man. I got a lot of people who are really enjoying doing this, and like I think it's just going to be a more and more regular thing, like as it goes on. So yeah, you'll be back. Thanks everybody for watching too. We're going to be putting these out every week still. Release days are on Sunday now to give me a little more time to edit, but they're still coming hot, and I'm lining up people. I've got like people for weeks. So if you're interested in doing this, you know what? Even if someone random on the internet is watching this and not just my friends from back home, if you want to do this show, you can still send me a message and we can talk. and maybe I could do one with a random, basically internet stranger. But either way, thanks for joining. Click the like, subscribe buttons below. Follow the link to our Patreon. Consider becoming a member. That money helps support me doing shows like this and that solo album that I'm working on. So any participation and patronage there would be excellent. And then you can find our Instagram link below as well. That's all we got. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.